Hey guys, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. It's late. It's about 10:16 p.m. October 3rd, 2017, Arizona time. I normally do not broadcast this late, but I am shocked and appalled. And I've never been more certain about something in my entire life. Now, the title of this video probably seems alarmist when you read it, but it's actually the truth. I just spent the last 30 minutes or so researching and watching one of the interviews courtesy of CBS News of the brother of the shooter, of Steve. First thing I want you to do is like this video, share it, rip it if you like. In fact, you can put it anywhere you want. Probably won't last long. Also, click the link below. I'll add a link later. Subscribe to our email list at amtvmedia.com. It might be the only way that I can reach you in the not too distant future. And what I'm saying now might not make sense to you now, but it will later. Sign up for our email list. I'll just leave it there. So there's this interview of which you can do a quick search right now. Follow along if you want. Follow me on Twitter as well, because I put all my internal thoughts and what's going on in my mind as I was watching this interview, and that's what I'm relaying to you right now. This was CBS. It's about 30 minutes. My first tweet. Something doesn't smell right here. Brother can't even fathom Steve committed act. Says he hopes they find a brain tumor to explain it. Now, for those of you that have watched the interview, so basically the brother, this is the most bizarre interview I've ever seen. Like the fact that the shooter allegedly is some kind of genius doesn't even make sense, because this guy, the brother, is an idiot. Is a total idiot. And the apple don't fall far from the tree. And then I continue. The biggest red flag, and sorry about the camera angle, I'm losing battery life right now because I've been using both of my phones. The biggest red flag is that Steve's brother keeps stressing that he acted alone. He stresses it multiple times during the interview to the mainstream media as he's standing in front of his house like an idiot. I'm surprised he didn't give out his address too. He talks about his family. It gives out all this personal detail, and he's standing in front of his house in Orlando, Florida. He's a total idiot. But he repeats multiple times that his brother acted alone. 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 Why is this idiot beating that into my head repeatedly? Well, because he wants you to think he acted alone. That his brother, his bro, was an evil genius. The fact that he keeps saying that only tells me that he didn't act alone. And I tweeted, the fact that he keeps repeating he acted alone tells me he didn't. Also doesn't make sense Steve was a genius, yet his brother speaking here is a complete idiot. Apple don't fall far from the tree. This is a direct quote from this idiot brother during the interview. His quote, not my words. Quote, "People watch movies where they butcher little kids." Let me continue. Brother basically says, quote, "There is nothing there," meaning there is no indication Steve, the alleged shooter, would have committed the attack in Las Vegas. No indication at all. Nothing. Plus, interview builds the narrative that a normal guy with no social media presence, who his idiot brother talks about, which really is just surveillance. Social media is surveillance. Right, I think most of you know that, but that's all it is. It's surveillance. That's why they want you using Facebook and YouTube and all these kinds of things. And of course, we use it for entertainment value and all these kinds of things, but it's really just surveillance. They're building the narrative that this normal guy with no indication he'd commit this heinous act, with no social media presence, which means that the big bad government couldn't surveil him, could be a killer. So take away all the guns right away. Total gun control narrative. The idiot brother stresses, that's what I'm going to call him because he's a freaking idiot. Quote, "I'm just a guy," he says. He says that repeatedly too. I'm just a guy. Because he wants you to think he's just a guy. So I tweeted here, he stresses, "I'm just a guy," or he wants you to believe that. You can follow me on Twitter at AMTV Media. So follow me there. Also, he's wearing sunglasses. And eyes, it's important to see the eyes. Eyes are the window to the soul. I'm not saying he is. But if he was a crisis actor, he'd cover them so you couldn't see him. Because your eyes are the window to the soul. You can see goodness light, truth, and hope in eyes, or you can see darkness and evil. I'm not saying he was, but if he was a crisis actor, but if he was a crisis actor, he'd cover up his eyes. Something else I noticed. He keeps reminding reporters to check his history. Why? He says this multiple times. It makes no sense. Why? Who does that? He wants reporters to do a background check on him. Sounds like he's prepared, doesn't it? Wants them to do a background check on him? Makes no sense. Again, I'm just doing basic critical thinking here. This is just basic level, third grade thinking. I'm really not that smart. So he keeps reminding reporters to check his history. The FBI, he says, still hasn't contacted him. He says that. He's quoted saying that the FBI still hasn't contacted him. I see my phone's ringing on the other one. And I just put there, WTF. That makes no sense. You're telling me, because the brother said this on live TV on CBS, that the FBI still hasn't contacted him. Really? You would be the first person they contacted. So that makes no sense. Again, these are his words. They're not my words. Almost, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. Also, like the brother, it's almost like this idiot brother thinks Steve was MK Ultra, because he says there was no connection Steve would do this. He basically just says that if Steve could do something like this, then with no connection and no indication, then anybody could. There is no reason. He even hopes that the autopsy shows, he said this too, paraphrasing a bit, that the autopsy will show his brother had a brain tumor in his head, because it could be the only thing that would explain what's happened to Steve. And then he's quoted as saying, there was something that happened to Steve. His quote. Another quote, something happened that drove him into the pit of hell. Then he continues. Again, these are not my words. I quoted all this on Twitter. Quote, Bug and Men in Black put on a Steve suit, referring to his brother, the alleged shooter, and went and did this. Bug in the Men in Black movies put on a Steve suit and went and did this. That's a direct quote. That, folks, is MK Ultra. And MK Ultra is very, very real, by the way. All declassified. You can look this stuff up for yourself. And then I tweeted, wow, immediately when he's asked about bump stock, which turns a semi-automatic weapon into it's technically still semi, because you still have to pull the trigger once, but turns it into almost an automatic weapon. That's when all of a sudden this idiot dumb brother, which the whole thing looks totally staged as it is anyways, pretty much starts speaking the most intelligently he's spoken in the whole 30 minutes, as if has been coached and was waiting for them to ask that question. He just like pops up and he's like, oh yeah, let me tell you about bump stocks. Another major red flag. And this is where it gets even worse, and I can't even make this stuff up. Again, watch the video yourself. I just relayed this to Alex, our video producer. I have him downloading it and saving it to his hard drive right now so that none of this footage can be edited and or altered. Then, I can't even make this stuff up. The idiot brother contradicts himself. Earlier, he said the FBI hadn't contacted him yet, right? I just told you that. Then he contradicts himself by saying that he hasn't been contacted by the FBI, but then later says that the feds don't tell me anything. That's a direct quote, that they're not going to tell him anything because he might be lying. So he says the FBI earlier hadn't contacted him, and then in the same interview says that the feds don't tell him anything when he's talking to them. What? That doesn't even make any sense. So that's about pretty much where in the interview I tweet, my God, I'm convinced this entire interview is a lie. Either this is an inside government hit job, in my opinion, and a total inside job, and a total cover-up, and a total coordinated attack. And this guy has a plan. And maybe Steve isn't even the shooter. Maybe that's a cover-up as well. And again, I presented evidence to you to show you earlier. You can watch all these videos for yourself, so I don't want to just continue repeating myself. Either that or this brother's in on it. He's a part of it then. Then him and his brother Steve were both working together, because this is the most idiotic, bizarre, strange interview I've ever seen in my entire life. I have never had alarm bells going off in my brain like I just did, which is why I'm broadcasting, and I never broadcast at 10:30 at night. Arizona, we just don't do it. And then there's another quote. He says, when Steve decided to do this. How is it the idiot brother says there's no connection? He can't understand that the brother that he loved would do something like this, yet he assumes that when Steve decided to do this. Like, if you're just using logic, even if you're an idiot, like let's just assume this is real and the guy's just a total idiot, wouldn't the logical question be that since there isn't a connection, according to you, it's possible your brother didn't do it? That's just logic. So we'll put links to all of this, and again, subscribe to our email list below. None of this makes sense. I appreciate you guys sharing this video. Again, you can rip it, you can put it anywhere you like. You've got my permission to do that. It just don't add up. Nothing adds up. None of it adds up. It's a convenient gun control narrative. There's a couple other tweets I'll read to you. Again, follow me on Twitter. There's some good stuff on here. Again, the biggest red flag is that Steve's brother keeps stressing he acted alone. Why do you keep beating that in my head? Because they want you to think that. And then I just say, something doesn't smell right. And then I tweeted a couple things earlier. Anyone else notice that the hashtag Las Vegas attack occurred right in front of a big black pyramid and the stage lights were turned on the crowd? Don't you think they'd turn the lights off? Why were the lights on the crowd? So they're just sitting ducks while and after the firing had started. Don't you think as an act of maybe some kind of, logic and self-defense, you would dim the lights at the very least and or turn them off? It almost looked like an intentional slaughter before a temple of darkness. And then I go on. Aztecs also performed ritual sacrifice before a pyramid temple, by the way. Maybe not much has changed. And then I go on. It's not like there was any motive for Las Vegas attack. Only gun control, civil war, and psychological damage of the American citizens as they herd the sheep and implement these fear tactics and psychological warfare to absolutely and entirely control the mass population. And push gun control, gun control, gun control, gun control, gun control, gun control, gun control. At the same time, they are slamming free speech, coming after religion next. I mentioned that earlier. And the censorship is at a new all-time high. I'll close with this. A lot of focus on this story right now, and there should be, because none of it smells right. It's a big, big story, obviously. Heartbreaking story. The conflict in North Korea, Trump is moving one of our big warships over there right now. This geopolitical conflict, in my opinion, is about to get very real. Unhinged. Very, very soon. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know if we'll be allowed to broadcast, honestly, during it. I really don't. My sense, just kind of my gut. Yeah, I'm praying a lot about this too. Man, we are just about in the eye of the storm. And they're not going to allow free speech during war, folks. They're not going to allow it. That's why they're shutting all this stuff down. So, honest to God, click that link below or go to our website, amtvmedia.com right now. Click the newsletter button, and I'll put a link with a little green check mark to make it easy in the description. You need to subscribe immediately. It's free. Give us your email address. That might be the only way I can contact you guys in the future. We are at literally code red. The worst of the worst. Worst case scenario. As I'm talking with family and friends, are like, oh, these events are so terrible. And they absolutely are. We've become Israel. It is just off the hook. The NFL's kneeling still, dishonoring the people that were shot. And this I heard from a family friend of mine. One of their close friends was actually one of the victims in Las Vegas. And one of my best friends, his cousin, her and her husband were both shot. And thankfully they're okay. But had to undergo multiple surgeries and to repair his leg and his ankle and these kinds of things. And it's just total darkness. Again, the lights on the crowd, sitting ducks, right in front of a giant, dark, black pyramid before a temple of darkness. Ritual sacrifice? Guys, look, maybe not much has changed, right? These ancient civilizations did it. Maybe ours does too, right? Things are about to get really, really heated. North Korea, of course, isn't really about North Korea. It's about the World War. And that's what's so scary about it, is that North Korea is about the U.S. fighting China, Russia, Iran, and America's worst enemies, because the wars never ended. Will we be allowed to broadcast during that? I don't know, honestly. Maybe that's the reason why I'm doing this video now, and I've done 10 years worth of content. Maybe it's just led up to this. I don't know. I've honestly tried my best. I really have. Anyways, guys, I love you. God bless you. I am just praying so much for this country right now, and I know that the light will prevail. I know that it will shatter, not only win, but it will shatter the darkness ultimately. But I talked about this earlier too. Guys, the signs are everywhere. Tornadoes, earthquakes, weather events, fires, great floods, shootings. I have never seen it of this magnitude, ever, in 10 years. Ever where it's been this bad. With this kind of high frequency. Never has the censorship been this bad. Never has the events taking place been this bad. I don't think people understand, and I'm not saying this to be negative. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. It's not going to get better from here. It's going to get worse. Most of this stuff is all engineered.